This was one of the biggest health hoaxes ever. Now, eating chocolate to lose weight.
Did you see the headlines on that? Well, that sounds too good to be true, and apparently it's because it is.
Indeed, media around the world published our story. It was called the #1 media hoax of all time on BuzzFeed.
Every second person wants to lose weight, but how when we fail so often?
And yet, we try it time and time again.
German scientists found out your diet works better, faster, if you combine it with dark chocolate.
We trust ridiculous diets.
There's something new. German scientists made a study feeding dieters chocolate.
We're doing an experiment to show how we're manipulated by so-called science.
You can imagine that's just the tip of the iceberg of corruption.
Paid for science, high profits. We're exposing a system that frustrates those who want to lose weight.
This is pure faith, nothing more. It's not science.
And yet, our absolutely unscientific study reaches millions of people around the world.
Hello. Good morning. One serve, so 40 grams, so about this much chocolate.
That's a lot.
Per day.
The story goes, if we always eat the right food, preferably homemade, everything fresh, all the right ingredients prepared the right way, then we'll always stay slim, healthy and beautiful. With the right diet, scientifically proven if possible, we have the chance to make the most of ourselves. If we fail, we blame ourselves, never the diet.
That's my colleague Diana. In the coming weeks and months, we'll show how easy it is to let ourselves be manipulated by dubious diet studies.
Peter and I risk a mad experiment. Along with questionable science, knee-jerk journalism plays a pivotal role in this story.
To begin with the facts, there are at least 28,345 nutrition studies worldwide, and nearly every one says something different.
We're supposed to eat more vegetables, prevent cancer, stay healthy.
We need more carbs to gain power.
But studies also warn they can make you fat and sick.
Too much processed meat is said to cause cancer.
And yet they also say don't worry about saturated fats.
Walnuts seem to help against prostate cancer and Alzheimer's.
White flour is generally pretty bad.
While it has been demonstrated that fish makes you smart.
Instead of bacon, choose fruit, always a safe bet.
Only fructose makes you fat as well.
And actually, too much fruit can be really dangerous.
Mediterranean fare is the healthiest.
We all trust in science. It's almost like a religion. It's supposed to tell us how we should look after ourselves. I'm meeting Uwe Knopp, one of the most critical nutritionists in Germany. He's not particularly well liked by his colleagues. Little wonder, with statements like this.
There are so many studies out there because so many are being made. But they don't necessarily prove anything. Nutritional science is primarily based on observational studies. And this form of study can only generate hypothetical assumptions. It can never offer any proof.
Nutritional studies always follow the same absurd principles. According to Knopp, they have nothing to do with true science.
To make an example, let's say they find out that HBO viewers live longer than Netflix viewers. Then nutritional science would translate that into HBO prolongs life. No one would buy it. But if you read fiber prolongs life, everyone believes it because it has been repeated often enough. The principle is the same. There's simply a statistical correlation. A is related to B, but whether or not that's the cause, nobody knows. Studies have shown that short workouts are more effective for the whole body than long workouts with low intensity.
It's your thing. Do what you wanna do.
Herbalife, a global nutrition company, committed to helping you achieve your fitness goals. Our protein shakes, vitamins.
The diet industry is booming. New providers are constantly crowding into the market. Some sell as whey, others concepts for a long-term change of diet. And since many customers have had bad experiences in the past, providers rely more than ever on studies and scientists. This is all aimed at convincing us that serious nutritionists and scientists stand behind these products.
Studies have shown that fat is not the cause of obesity, quite the contrary.
Publishing science is almost like free advertising. So if you have some quirky diet, you just put together a tiny little study. Maybe you get lucky, maybe you manipulate things a little bit, and you get the result you want. And now you have the stamp of science on your work, and then you can launch a whole campaign around it. And next thing you know, everyone's talking about, low-carb diets or high protein or only celery, whatever.
John Bohannon is a journalist with Science magazine, one of the most renowned scientific publications in the world. He's long been concerned with the reliability of scientific studies and is all but certain a whole lot of nonsense is being published, and that permanently wrecks the credibility of serious researchers.
It is still the case that people respect the scientific imprimatur on some claim. And we should. That's what science is supposed to be for. It means that if I tell you that X is good for you, and then I say, oh, and a scientist has done an experiment and found that it really is true, you should trust it more. That's what science is for. The problem is, how do you know whether the science was good? That's harder and harder to tell.
It's not only consumers that face this problem. Plenty of scientific rubbish ends up here, in magazines. And currently, diets are the top sellers. Major magazine publishers in Germany increased their advertising revenue by displaying diets and nutrition on their covers. No matter how absurd, no matter how way out, every diet finds its customers. The diet market in France in particular is gigantic. Not only in its variety, but also in its absurdity. Being in shape is a public pressure for women here, and nothing is too crazy not to be sold as a diet. For instance, the fun diet with sweets, the honey diet, or the dash diet, whole grains only. Following the werewolf diet means you can only eat at night.
Heidelberg, Germany. What if we bring our own crazy, totally ridiculous diet to the market? Would that work? How far could we go? To publish our own study, would it make it into newspapers and magazines? We're looking for a partner and meet with Dr. Günther Frank. He's written books on healthy eating and works as a physician and lecturer at the College of St. Gallen in Switzerland. Is it possible simply to invent a diet, see a scientific study through to the end, manipulate the results, and publish them? He thinks it is.
It is quite often referred to as junk science. They have to accommodate all these things. 1,000 publications are stipulated. There are careers riding on that, and the university rankings are based on these publications as well. There's an immense pressure to publish, and inferior studies simply have to pay a certain amount to get published. That's the logical conclusion in this system.
And together with Dr. Frank, it's this very system we're planning to exploit.
But first, we're off to the annual meeting of the German Obesity Society in Leipzig.
The Society is an association of medical experts who specialize in obesity. It researches the causes and helps to develop countermeasures, but its main concern is to get obesity classified as a disease. This way, doctors would earn more money, or, this is how the Society puts it, obesity could be treated more effectively.
The exhibition halls in Leipzig are crowded. Here, physicians, pharmaceutical companies, diet providers, lobbyists and food industry delegates all jockey for space. The agenda of this massive diet bazaar is clear: to engineer future sales. And a strong ally in this equation, the scientific study.
We've had obesity studies running for 6 years, and studies on our liver fasting concept date back 2 years, so the study is 2 years old. Basically, you see the people's starting body weight. Here, for example, he started out weighing 100 kilogram, and after a month, he's lost 6 kilogram. A major study on this involving 9,000 patients was published in the International Journal of Obesity. This is a scientific brochure in which all our studies are documented. We've conducted studies around type 2 diabetes, insulin therapy, oral anti-diabetic treatment, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We've discovered that people who eat nuts have a higher elasticity of their blood vessels than people who ate no nuts. They simply added walnuts to their diet, and it had a positive result.
I'm assured that everything here is highly reliable, all these countless studies. Regardless of whether they're about walnuts, oils or diet products, everything seems to be exhaustively scientifically investigated, verified and certified. Can I believe that?
Let's say we have 100,000 people. They are questioned about their diet. Here we already have the first weak points. The data is based on the personal information of the participants. No one knows if they're telling the truth or cheating a little. 10 years later we check who's still alive, who has what kind of diseases and so forth. And then we begin to draw up correlations. So maybe the scientists will discover that of these 100,000 people, those who have eaten the most bananas will live the longest. And this is being translated into bananas prolong your life. Therefore, we recommend, hey folks, eat bananas and you'll have a long life.
What really is a good diet? The German Obesity Society answers this question in its S3 guideline. The most renowned nutritional scientists in Germany collaborated to prepare this guideline for their peers. They claim that it's evidence-based, that is, following clear scientific facts, and to analyze and advocate how much thinner fat should be.
We want to know more. In Hamburg, we meet Professor Ingrid Mühlhauser, one of the most prominent German healthcare scientists. Above all, she's a skeptic and a critic, challenging common doctrines and dismantling various statistics and studies. She agrees to appraise the S3 guideline for us.
Originally, the S3 guideline was committed to underpinning the science with the best available body of evidence. The creators of such guidelines should be independent, but often they are not independent enough. They have their own interests. These experts are mostly engaged in precisely the same field of activity, the diet industry, and they often just promote their own methods.
Lobbying in a diet handbook for every general practitioner in Germany?
The committee writing the S3 guideline belongs to the upper echelons of science, so to speak. And whatever they say is going to be hard to disprove. I'm honestly quite shocked to see that scientific criteria are not being followed here. Studies are presented as being of the highest quality, whereas a closer look reveals their weaknesses. These studies are quite obviously influenced by the sponsors, so to me, the whole guideline is worthless.
So are there vested interests in this guideline? 6 programs are recommended. By the German Nutritional Society, DGE, I Lose Weight, Weight Watchers. I never had this weight. Joyfully in Shape from AOK Public Insurance, BodyMed, Mobilis, and OptiFast from Nestlé.
The guideline is compiled by 6 scientists. 4 of them are directly or indirectly associated with those programs. Professor Alois Berg leads Mobilis. Professor Thomas Elroth from the German Nutritional Society is associated with Joyfully in Shape and Optifast. Professor Stefan Bischoff, significantly involved with the Optifast study. Professor Hans Hauner, closely related to Weight Watchers, member of the Expert Advisory Board, published 8 studies on Weight Watchers, significant connections.
If you see how financially involved the authors of this diet guideline are, then the question must be asked, how can objectivity be maintained here? For example, Professor Hauner, who stands behind the Obesity Society guideline. There's a significant financial interweaving with Weight Watchers, and then Weight Watchers gets listed as scientifically approved in the guideline. That's unbelievable.
Weight Watchers is one of the most famous names in the diet list of the guideline. It has numerous scientific studies dedicated to it. And involved in many of them, Professor Hans Hauner, former board member of the German Obesity Society. He's one of Germany's leading nutritional scientists with a significant media presence.
We're meeting him in his institute at the Technical University in Munich. Was he listed on Weight Watchers' payroll?
That's no secret. And it's even written here. So I haven't made any statements regarding Weight Watchers. And neither have other colleagues, as far as programs with conflicting interests were concerned. They sometimes even left the room when sensitive topics were raised. That's totally clear. These things must be kept clearly separate.
But that means that the Commission will nearly never have voted as a body. And Professor Hauner sees difficulties in the guideline as well.
Well, every set of guidelines naturally has its strengths and weaknesses, and the Obesity Society guideline is no exception. If I may put it in general terms, 85% of what we do in medicine produces no hard evidence in the strictest sense. So this is what we should try to ascertain in this guideline. This is often experience-based medicine, where the studies are difficult to control. Nevertheless, we are convinced that this is the right approach, even though the implementation doesn't have to function in every instance. This is certainly the case, perhaps especially strongly on the subject of obesity and weight loss.
To reiterate, nutrition and diet studies are rarely scientifically reliable. And that's how it looks, even to a professor who has published many of them.
We conduct studies like these ourselves, and after a year we generally have dropout rates of about 30 to 40% and sometimes higher. The longer it goes on, the more participants we lose. And what remains evaluable then becomes questionable. That's the problem with all these studies.
So the studies are scientifically questionable. And almost all the scientists involved have close connections to the diet industry. But according to Hauner, they have to. No one outside the diet industry wants to finance these studies.
Of course, there's always a whiff of that, well, not a whiff. How to put it?
An aftertaste?
Yes, of course. There's always an aftertaste of that. But if you keep things really open and present the scope, then I think it's justifiable. And everyone who reads it can decide for themselves whether to believe it or not.
We've also spoken to the German Obesity Society about this aftertaste, but they refer to the programs in which no Commission member is involved. Correct, precisely 1 out of 6. And moreover, all the diet studies have been published in a peer review magazine. Peer review means that other scientists examine the essay before publication, and that's the starting point for our own diet study. We team up with nutritionist Uwe Knopp, medical doctor Gunther Frank, healthcare researcher Professor Ingrid Mühlhauser, and science journalist John Bohannon. Before we take on our own study, we're up for a little crash course with Professor Mühlhauser. What are the best tricks to get the desired results in a diet study?
To begin with, a comparison group is chosen or provided with a program that you already know won't score well.
That means if you want good results, make sure only one group hits the gym and gets good food. That would be Group A, technically termed the intervention group. The other group continues as before. Group B, fast food on the couch instead of sport and smoothies. For the scientists to know who to put in the right group, so-called run-ins are arranged previously.
That means, first of all, you check out the candidates. You tell them what to do. If you see that they are not cooperative, that they are not attending the checkups, then they won't take part in the study anyway.
The couch potatoes are left out or sent directly into Group B.
You only pick people for your study who are happy to participate and who commit themselves long-term. Then, of course, you'll reach a high compliance rate.
Only the cooperative ones are welcome to join Group A. This guarantees the success of the study, if they don't give up. And if they do, that's no problem either.
Those who give up because it's too costly, or because they don't lose weight, or even gain more out of frustration, drop out and don't come back. What happens then is tricky. You simply take the last results before they fell off the wagon and use it for the final evaluation. That's it.
Hence, everything fits together perfectly, no matter what the participants have done, and no matter how many are still left.
Indications for such methods are found in diet studies recommended in the S3 Guideline. We're back in Heidelberg, and we're starting our experiment. We're going to create and conduct our own study. And we will prove that it's possible to verify and even publish something totally absurd with a minimum of scientific effort. Then we'll have our own scientifically approved diet.
What are we going to do? Well, we've got chocolate.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. We'll check out the effects and see how to make a big headline out of it. One test group will simply be given this dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is generally regarded as something good. So, if we get positive results, then we are likely to get published.
And we won't make it too easy. Instead of mice, we'll be testing our farcical diet concept on real people. Here are our study participants. Over 3 weeks, 16 subjects will be following our recommendations.
Okay, white coat on, and we feel like real scientists already. The subjects haven't a clue that they're participating in a scientific hoax. Some of them really want to lose weight. Others are in it for a bit of extra cash. All of them will join us in making science history. The experiment begins.
Thank you for coming. The procedure will be the following. As this is a scientific study requiring us to compare the progress of different groups, you will be divided into 3 groups. Each one will be given a different diet, and after 3 weeks, we'll check the results.
Most diet studies have merely 2 comparison groups. We'll have 3. That makes it even more professional.
Group A is on a diet and eats chocolate. Group B is on a diet only, and Group C continues as before.
As with every study, there's a bunch of paperwork first. Then we weigh and measure our participants, more or less professionally. Well, we've never done it before. Everything is carefully written down because even though it is completely pointless, we do want to appear in a science journal with real data and a real examination, just the same as every other study.
Dr. Frank divides the groups up. As he won't be involved with the evaluation of the data, and as we don't know who he puts in which group, we'll be speaking of a double-blind study. Dr. Frank is giving a final briefing.
We'd like you to keep a note every day. Weight, physical state, mental state, sleep duration, sleep quality. Simply follow this procedure.
In addition to that, the daily urine sample. We want to collect as much data as possible. That way we can pick out the values that support our slim with chocolate thesis. And finally, the chocolate.
Every morning and evening 1 bar of dark chocolate. Half in the morning, the other half in the evening.
And lastly, Dr. Frank takes blood samples. We want a complete before and after profile of our subjects. Even if the change is very slight, everything is important to us. In 3 weeks, we'll know if it worked out in the way we envisaged.
Paris. Why do we all actually want to be unquestioningly slim? What connects us to this idea? On one hand, skinny models are under fire in France. On the other, being in shape seems to be even more important here than to women in Germany. Although the pressure to be perfect is on the increase everywhere. But why? We're hoping to find answers here. We're meeting Pierre Dukan, inventor of one of the most successful diets in France, the Dukan diet.
How are you?
All right, fine, thank you. Nice to
Was
be
it
here.
okay?
Yeah, traveling with everything all right.
Aujourd'hui, on est dans une culture.
These days we find ourselves in a culture, a cult of slimness. And our shape influences our social standing too. Slim women are more successful. In that, there's the power of seduction. Fashion is dominated by slim women, and men are affected by that as well. Personally, I find women with a feminine shape more natural. But from a cultural perspective, you shouldn't be too feminine these days.
The Dukan diet is tough. During the first few days, you eat only meat and low-fat yogurt. Then vegetables are added. Even in the last phase, there's a weekly fasting day, which will actually continue for the rest of your life. The slightest amount of extra weight is considered highly unhealthy here.
Physically, being overweight affects your heart, your eyes, your kidneys. Not in a day, not in a week, but during the course of your life. You eat 90,000 meals in your life. And if you eat poorly 90,000 times, you won't be healthy.
Nevertheless, he himself doesn't believe in a permanent solution.
A diet doesn't guarantee that you will maintain that weight for 2 or 3 years. If you go to a doctor with an angina or an infection, you'll be given antibiotics. However, you can fall sick again the next year. That's how it is. I'm mainly interested in weight loss and good blood results. And what happens next year, well...
Pierre Dukan's greatest critic is located not far from Dukan's diet company, nutritional scientist Dr. Zermati. His practice on the Champs-Élysées has become a port of call for victims of diet madness.
Due to Dukan's diet, the eating behavior of many people has been thrown into disorder, and their weight problems have actually increased. Nowadays, the latest fad diets reach millions of people via the media. That's precisely what happened with his diet. Several million people followed it. And now my office is full of people whose health has been destroyed by it.
In shape at all costs, including extreme diets that destroy body and mind. According to Zermati, this is a very dangerous development.
We have to get rid of diets in the first place. It needs to be made clear that diets are not a solution for permanent weight loss. They only work for a short time, around a year. It needs to be explained that diets amplify weight problems. They throw our eating behavior into confusion and increase psychological disorders. These are hard facts. Scientists around the world agree on this.
Back in Germany, we're visiting our subjects. They're all fully engaged, sticking to their diets. They go without carbs, take urine samples, weigh and log themselves. Even their fridges are in great shape, like Jennifer Trares.
A lot of fruit and veg, especially carrots, and different kinds of tofu.
She's in our non-chocolate group, much to her disappointment.
I'd love some chocolate or sweets, but actually I don't really miss pizza or pasta.
A good thing for us, Jennifer is super sporty anyway and has already been on low carbs for some time. No big change for her then, so she won't lose much weight. And she's not supposed to. She's in the comparison group B. Low carb, no chocolate.
We're at Helga Wagner's. She's done numerous diets. As a result of her excess weight, she's now diabetic. Her biggest problem? The yo-yo effect.
There was a neighbor's diet, 3 days of eating, 2 whole days of fasting and things like that. I've tried everything, lost some weight, but then gained more back than before. I've lost a couple of 100 pounds in all, but I've gained them right back, and more.
Now, our Mrs. Wagner is in our chocolate group. The early days have been a raging success. She's lost weight and is feeling fit as a fiddle.
I mean, if I watch someone famous on TV, it's like, oh my God, she's the same age as I am and in such a good shape. Or even friends of mine who have a different build. I envy them and don't feel very comfortable with myself. I've even cancelled parties because I didn't know what to wear. I look like a whale. That should actually have motivated me. But instead, I stay at home and look for something nice to eat.
Mrs. Wagner is in Group A, the chocolate group.
Everyone knows the pressure to be slim, just like our subject, Mona Klotzbücher.
For me personally, my diet plays an important role. I'm quite careful about what I eat. I'm surrounded by slim people, and I let myself be influenced by that to the extent that I'd love to shed a few pounds. So, yeah, it's something that I care about.
Mona has lost a bit of weight with us, about 2 pounds, and she's very strict with herself when she feels she weighs too much.
It's not really a failure to me, but it's a sign that I wasn't disciplined enough. Although, if there were any deeper reasons, like if there was a stressful situation, or if it was simply not that important to me at the time, I can deal with that.
At the moment, that means Mona has chocolate for breakfast and not much else. Because Mona is in our chocolate group, and hopefully she'll lose more weight in the weeks to come.
Three weeks have passed. Time to weigh and measure and synchronize all the data. All 16 participants are present, but we'll only keep 14 of them. One important thing noted, the dropout rate. And another thing, in order to enhance the current results, the subjects from groups B and C will first drink a big glass of water. Just in case. They're supposed to be heavier than our chocolate eaters, so we dreamed up that little trick ourselves. And other good ideas to prove scientifically that chocolate makes you thin come from our Dr. Frank.
How would it be, for example, if we only took every second result? It would give you a different result, so suddenly you're left with a nice curve. We could play around until it fits and say we've only measured every third day, then it's simple. We get in a talented statistician who's familiar with a program to work with the results until it fits.
And we found that talented statistician here in Europe's banking centre, Frankfurt. Alexander Haas is, strictly speaking, not a medical statistician, but rather an econometrician. That means he doesn't determine the numbers, he analyses them, usually for a large bank. As he's a good friend of mine, he's willing to join in on the experiment. The numbers somehow have to show that our chocolate has a positive effect. You work it out. Just as Dr. Frank suggested, we simply test which values fit together.
If we take the measured value of every third, fourth or fifth day, we can create the impression of representative data points. Although we are creating the space to choose specific points which paint a different picture.
Because our tiny groups only contain 4 to 5 subjects, the fluctuations are random. And yet, we managed to support our absurd thesis with a few statistical tricks. Even better, the chocolate eaters are still losing weight, while the normal eaters are gaining again. I can clearly see the yo-yo effect.
Yes, that's the low-carb group. They lose their motivation. And after 3 weeks, their diet isn't as effective as our chocolate diet.
Just to get it right, people that don't fit into the picture get kicked out.
Correct.
We bend the graphic to make it look more dramatic.
Exactly. By relativizing the control groups or other differences.
With the daily values, we simply choose those which fit into the plan. We arrange them into a series so we can talk about the significance.
And now the study can be written, with all the bells and whistles. Preface, statistics, test description, following the example of studies printed in prestigious publications. And then it's done. Finally, our study is complete. This is how it looks, freshly printed, quite professional, and naturally in English. Peter actually wants a PhD for it. We're taking our study to Uwe Knopp. He's going to help us. How should we best present our diet? Chocolate is a fat burner. We proved it scientifically, and now we're taking it to the market.
In order to sell that successfully, you have to tell people fairy tales. That's essentially how the diet providers do it.
We already know that. Uwe Knopp explains what to do first. We have to get into a science journal, right?
Well, if you want to sell this nonsense as legitimate, the first step would be to try to get this terrible paper into a journal. It has to be published. Then you'll have an original publication about which you create a press release. That contains your message the way you want it. That's the system. That's how it works. Once the news is launched in the media, it may be, of course, that the media doesn't view the paper in its original form, but instead just trusts in the fairy tale press release. They, in turn, generate their own publications, which declares somewhere in the title that chocolate makes you thin.
Peter is in Boston.
Here I want to meet John Bohannon. He's a correspondent for two of the most renowned universities in the world, MIT and Harvard University. His doctoral degree will later play a role in our press release, but for now, we're asking him to help us to get into a peer review journal. Peer review is a quality assurance procedure for scientific publications. Experts examine the articles before publication. In this way, you can distinguish good from bad work. Technically.
There's just a lot of bad science in this area. And, you have studies being published by medical doctors out of small clinics, and you also have huge studies being published by Harvard Medical School researchers. And it's very hard to tell the difference between them when the way that the statistics are reported, when you finally hear about the study in a newspaper, for example.
John shows us where we can apply to so-called open access magazines. According to him, it's all just a question of cash.
It depends on your budget. If you're a bad guy and you have a lot of money, you can probably buy a paper in an expensive traditional subscription journal. I'm sure it can be done. We have seen scandals about every few years of money directly influencing the process of scientific publication. You can spend about $10,000 and buy yourself a position as a co-author on a real scientific paper now. There's a big market for this in China. You can actually buy authorship. So, you can imagine that's just the tip of the iceberg of corruption.
We'll pay too. But to begin with, we are founding the Institute of Diet and Health, a simple homepage for a better reputation. Finally, John explains where to send our study for it to be successful.
And here it goes to 30 open access magazines. Our own completely meaningless, scientifically worthless study. It's been a long project. It took 6 months from the initial idea to the final execution. The most complicated part was after the experiment. To bend the values without faking them in order to get the desired results. It worked out, but will our diet at least get into an online portal? And then...
The first magazines are willing to publish us.
Wow. Cool.
Some of them want $100 from us. The chief editor of one is a professor from somewhere in Pakistan. His speciality is poultry sperm. I have no idea why they want our chocolate article. They're probably in it for the money. And that's what our scientific study looks like officially published. In an apparently renowned magazine, International Archives of Medicine. No visible difference to any other study. Back in the metropolitan region of Frankfurt, the home base of our self-founded Institute of Diet and Health. Now we begin with the marketing phase. John, who's bombarded with daily science news, explains how to stand out from the crowd.
If you put out a good press release, you've got a sexy title, maybe it's a sexy subject, and you get lucky. And even better, if you have some money to start, make a nice video, go to a conference, maybe even make an advertisement. Well, now your chances of getting noticed are much, much higher. And I'd say getting noticed is more than half the battle when it comes to translating science, whether good or bad, into essentially policy and people's daily lives.
The Institute of Diet and Health sets up a science blog. Just like in our study, everything we write here is in English. Our hope is that no journalist will want to fight through articles full of scientific jargon. And we're working on the marketing of our chocolate diet. To make it sound convincing, we invent the chocolate transformation. We've got it all: Facebook sites and testimonials.
Girls, you won't believe it. Eating chocolate and losing weight. That's my combo. I lost 12 pounds in no time. And the best thing is, staying healthy and slim isn't a problem at all. That's the chocolate transformation. So eat the choco, stop the yo-yo. I'm Lisa Marie. Thanks for watching.
Diana can't believe it, but I only paid $15 for this bikini show. And she doesn't only undress for us. Countless shady diet providers make use of her services.
How I lost over 20 pounds with Rapid Supplement Super Strength. Hey Adam, thanks for helping me get these results.
Peter's in a marketing frenzy. I have to stop him before he spends our whole budget.
German scientists found out your diet works better, faster, if you combine it with dark chocolate. You lose more weight and are less likely to go yo-yo. So boys and girls, get your chocolate out and let's lose some weight.
Hola, chicas. Do you hate diets? Don't eat this. Awesome. Stop the yo-yo. Eat the choco. Absolutely love it.
Our Facebook site is already quite active. Sure, we bought a couple of friends as well.
That would have been enough.
Come on, we need a couple of image spots.
And don't forget the French market.
D'accord.
Maybe we could compose a song.
Here we are.
Scientist in Germany recommends a chocolate treat.
Or maybe a rap.
The chocolate transformation gonna change your life. Gotta get it, you're gonna be surprised. It'll make you feel great, that's no lie. Had you jumping up for the sky. Chocolate is so good and tasty, makes you feel so warm and happy. Everybody likes chocolate now and then. Go around the world and back again. You know you can't go wrong with chocolate.
We're good to go. Here comes the last phase of our experiment. Choco instead of yo-yo. That's the press report we employ an agency to send out to hundreds of journalists in Germany. Will anybody bite? Nothing happens. Well, a few unimportant blogs pick up our message. Not an earth-shattering success.
But suddenly, it's Saturday. Bild. Europe's largest newspaper covers our diet, and not just anywhere, on the front page.
What a sweet study! Eating chocolate gets you in shape. That's the surprising result of a study made by the Institute of Diet and Health.
Bild takes the lead and they all follow. Cosmopolitan, Brigitte, even RTL. Focus magazine makes a film.
Chocolate doesn't make you fat, it makes you slim. That's the result of a study by the Institute of Diet and Health in Mainz, describing itself as a scientific, non-profit think tank.
By now, millions of Germans have heard about our chocolate study. But what if they follow this idiotic diet?
If this creates a slim with chocolate movement, it probably won't harm anyone. It will simply be a sweet little consolation. It would have been more problematic if we had gone with something potentially dangerous, like sticking a thumbtack in your arm, for instance. It's possible that something like that could have spread.
Now we want to find out if we can be successful outside Germany too. So we send out our press release to the UK and the United States.
And suddenly it's on. Britain's Express, Daily Mail and Daily Star cover it.
Has the world gone cocoa?
And from there on, straight to the Commonwealth states. The Times of India writes about us, and many Indian media outlets follow suit. In Australia, we make the front page of Women's Health.
Numerous Russian sites pick up the news, as they do in Africa, where suddenly people want to fight obesity with chocolate. The only place missing so far is the USA, the largest diet market in the world. It's right before Easter, and naturally no one here can resist the chocolate headlines either.
A great study released just in time for Easter. Apparently, eat all the chocolate you want this weekend. According to a German study, daily cocoa intake can actually help you lose weight.
There's a ton of weight loss pills and potions out there promising to give you a slim figure just in time for bikini season. Yeah, right. But word from a group of German researchers, your secret ingredient just may be the sweet surprise hidden inside those plastic Easter eggs. Yep, chocolate. You know, cocoa, chocolat, chocolada.
It's time to tell Helga Wagner and the other participants the truth. Dr. Frank speaks to them personally. We wouldn't have been able to expose this whole system of bad science without our volunteers, and Helga Wagner is quite relieved.
No way, the chocolate?
That's the chocolate.
Oh, you're so mean. I've had a hard time.
We thought you'd like the taste.
No, 83% cocoa can't taste good.
Fortunately, she doesn't like dark chocolate anyway.
We are starting to develop a guilty conscience as millions of people around the world have now heard about our chocolate report and had maybe hoped, finally, to have found a really sweet diet.
But above all, we're angry. No journalist has investigated our Choco story. No one has checked to see how bad our study really was.
Why should they? Losing weight with chocolate, that sells. And it's not the first nonsensical piece of science news published, just to get women on a new diet trip that will make them even more frustrated.
This business stinks. And we, as journalists, play along. Just like the scientists who admit not to know if the studies they publish are correct. Not to mention the companies that make billions every year with new diets. They all benefit from this scientific hoax.
I just wish for him to like me, so I'll diet on only raw meat. But I have tried every single way. The story always ends the same. A scientist in Germany recommends a chocolate treat. No promises, no miracles, but this is changing my whole world. Now I can't help but smile.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, the Easter long weekend is here. It is upon us, and if you're guilty of having a sweet tooth, well, you can breathe a sigh of relief.
A new study has found that consuming chocolate won't bring on the bulge. Here to tell us more is health and fitness coach Amelia Phillips. Hello.
Good morning. One serve, so 40 grams, so about this much chocolate.
That's a lot.
Per day.
That's a
now,
lot.
it was the low-carb group that could eat the chocolate that lost the most weight.